our JAG staff managers, and we may have some coordinators or specialists that are able to jump in here as the time goes on. I just want to sort of welcome everyone to our little conversation with our friends from the Purdue Extension. So back in, I think it now actually was March, maybe March or early April of 2020, during the first part of stay-at-home orders and all things COVID, had a great conversation with Dustin and Naomi and some other folks from their team about a potential partnership that Employ Indy in the Indianapolis area was sort of investigating as an option for all of our virtual education that we at the time didn't know we would be doing permanently. So it was sort of a stopgap measure during that time, but now it's something that's very long term and could be just a new way of doing business and the new order of things around here in the JAG world and the school world. But some very exciting news because they've been able to further develop their financial planning tools and financial literacy education, financial capability, all the things that you want to use to help make our students successful. So we're happy that you're here. We're happy that you're tuning in or watching on recording. But I will pass that over now to Dustin and Naomi and let them kind of talk a little bit about themselves and then walk us through some of the virtual tools we could use for our classes.
Thanks, Brianna. I'm glad to hear you go through that whole list of financial education, financial ability, financial literacy. I always feel like I stumble when I'm talking about it, and then I assume people think I don't know what I'm talking about. So it has a lot of different names for today's purpose, though. We will be referring to it as the High School Financial Planning Program, and we'll get a little bit more into that here in just a few minutes. But as Brianna said, my name is Dustin, and I want to thank you all for tuning in and joining us today. I know you have a lot on your plate, and we're really excited to share this resource with you. But at the end of this presentation, we're going to ask for you to interact with us a little bit and tell us how we can continue to support you moving forward. So just a little bit about me. I am the 4-H Youth Development Educator in Marion County. Our offices are on the state fairgrounds. And I'm very passionate about financial planning / ability / literacy / education because when I came out of college, I had a very wise uncle that paid for me to take a financial planning course. And the principles that I learned in that course were not taught in school. They were not taught by my parents, but thankfully through the course that he put me through, those are principles that I still use every day, from budgeting every month to evaluating different home loans. My wife and I just refinanced our mortgage. So I'm really passionate about passing that information on to our young people. And a fun fact about me is that when my wife and I are not running around with our 18-month-old twins, we actually enjoy running on our own time. She runs full marathons and I run half marathons. Naomi?
Thanks, Dustin. And Brianna, thank you. And for everybody else, thanks so much for having us today. I mean, I too am excited to be able to introduce this program to you all because I've used it for many years. So my name again is Naomi Bechtold. My role, I am what's known as the Family Resource Management Extension Specialist, which is a mouthful. So basically what I do is my office right now is remote. Otherwise it's up on Purdue's campus. And I work with extension educators like Dustin around the state in the area of personal financial management education. I'm also an accredited financial counselor. And I've been with Purdue Extension now going on 12 years. I actually started literally in Dustin's role as a 4-H youth educator in Marion County. And my focus was on, just like Dustin's, was on personal financial management education. And from there, I became a health and human sciences educator, and with the focus on personal financial management. And now I've moved into the statewide role as well. So I think that you're really going to enjoy this program. There's so much that is so important for your students to learn. One fun non-fact about me, and the reason I say non is because I used to, when people would say, what's a fun fact about yourself? My dad told us from the time, about this big, the fact is that we had an ancestor who had signed the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. And so I'd say, guess what? I have an ancestor who did that. And so finally I decided to do some research on that a couple of years ago. And the name of the signer is James Wilson. And when I called these researchers, the Declaration and the Constitution, they said, well, there's no way you could be their ancestor because he had no children. And so, and by this time my dad was deceased, so I couldn't go back and tell him, where'd you learn this? So anyway, I am not an ancestor of a signer of the Declaration of Independence. So that's my fun fact.
You've been duped all these years, Naomi.
All these years, I've been misleading people. It's horrible.
Thanks for sharing.
Sure.
For those of you that a couple people have just joined, welcome. If you get a chance, please introduce yourself and tell us where you're from in the chat. We would appreciate it. So let's delve into our presentation and the resources that we want to share with you today. During our time together, folks, we're not expecting this to go any more than 30 minutes. So I know we scheduled a full hour, but we respect your time and know you've got a lot going on. So we're in about 30 minutes, we're hoping to get through the bullets that you see here on the agenda. We're going to talk about why Purdue. We do get that question a lot, why is Purdue involved in this? So hopefully we can help to explain that. We'll give an overview of the High School Financial Planning Program, HSFPP. We love acronyms in the extension world, and that's what that one stands for. It's a long title. Then we're going to introduce our virtual module, which came from the lessons that were part of the High School Financial Planning Program. Naomi's going to share some ideas for facilitating it in a virtual format. And finally, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to use a website called menti.com to collect some feedback from you all, because we're considering about rolling out some more of these kind of resources, and we really want to hear from you. I think we've all Zoomed enough to know the general housekeeping, but please, as a reminder, please put yourselves on mute. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please drop them in the chat, and Naomi and I will be monitoring that. We'll also have time at the end to unmute yourself, and we can have a conversation as well. Okay, so we often get asked, why is Purdue doing these things? And many of you may have heard of Purdue University called a land grant institution. And what that means is that we get special funding from the federal and state government. And in return for that, we're expected to do three things. We have three mission areas. We're supposed to teach and do research. Y'all probably knew that already. But the third piece of our mission is to do extension, or to extend the knowledge, research, teaching, and resources from the university out to all Hoosiers across the state. So regardless if you're 0 years old all the way up to 99 years old, we have an obligation and a duty and a passion for helping to educate people, all Hoosiers across the state, I should say, and Boilermakers too, about different subject areas. So within Extension, we have different program area focuses. We have 4 of them. One of those focuses is youth development, and that is the program area where I am in. Again, I'm in Marion County, and we deliver youth development programming through the methodology of 4-H. Many of you are probably familiar with 4-H. It stands for Head, Heart, Hands, and Health. And those are the 4 areas of young people that we're trying to positively develop. My colleague Naomi is in a different program area, and she's going to tell you about that one.
So in health and human sciences, we work on 4 different areas, including family development. So, and that's anywhere from infant to senior citizen. I'm family resource management, which is how to best use your personal and your family's resources to get what you want and what you need. We have food and nutrition is the 3rd, and then health and wellness is the 4th area. And we have educational programming in all 4 of those areas. And I wouldn't be surprised actually if you may yourself or have had friends or family or within your schools that you have had the nutrition education program or the SNAP education program come in and do educational programs. And those all fall under health and human sciences.
Yeah, thanks, Naomi. I'm looking in the chat. I love this. Tammy was in 4-H. Brianna was a 10-year member. Jody was a 10-year member. So I don't need to explain all this, but that's really exciting. We've got some alums on the call as well. I did want to mention that Purdue University Extension, we have offices in all 92 counties across the state. There is at least one 4-H educator in every county. And Naomi, most counties also have an HHS educator as well, correct?
That's correct. And I don't know if you also mentioned as well, Dustin, the fact that this isn't just in Indiana, is that you find cooperative extension offices and programs in all 50 states and and U.S. territories as well.
Yeah, thank you for adding that on, Naomi. And what's great about that is we're able to share a lot of resources about different things that we're doing, such as financial education and the high school financial planning program. All right, Naomi.
So this is the program. How many of you have actually, if you have, you can raise your hand in the chat, have actually heard of the high school financial planning program? And we're not expecting that you have, which is why it is we're doing this, but if you have, that's a bonus. So I'll tell you, this program has been around probably for at least 20 years, and it is a free national program that has been offered, I want to say literally to 10 million students. And the way that it's done for free is because the organization that created it was a university, and when they closed, they were able to use the remaining endowment for educational programs. It's part of the National Endowment for Financial Education, NEFI, of which this falls under. So this program I started using when I was a 4-H youth educator. It is based, you will hear people say the fact you can use it for middle schoolers. I always tend to use it for 9th through 12th graders. And it teaches the basics of financial education because, as you all best know, it really depends entirely on the school system as to whether or not there's any kind of financial education that is done within your own specific schools. Usually, if it is, it's usually done within, it falls under economics. But what we have found is that this program, which breaks down into modules, which we'll explain in just a moment, they go into the very basics of financial literacy. And when Dustin was talking earlier about what's the correct terminology to use when it comes to financial education, really what we talk about is financial capability. And that's not just for high school students, that's just in general. Because financial capability is a combination of literacy, learning the terms, and then finding the resources that you can use in order to be able to learn and to be able to become capable in the area of personal financial management and learning how to best be able to manage your own personal resources. So this website that you're seeing here and that we will show you more of is the website that you would go to just to learn more about the high school financial planning program in general. And are you logged in or not, or do we just just to show the different modules? Or are we going to just go to ours first? There we go. Just to give you a brief overview of how it is the program works. The module that we're going to show you today is money management, but then there are 5 other modules: borrowing, earning power, investing, financial services, and insurance, all which have subcategories under it as well. And so what we have done, which Dustin's going to discuss in a moment, is we are concentrating on the first module and how it is that it can help your students. So just to give you, as I say, just to give you a brief overview of how it is the high school financial planning program works. In general, when this program was originally created, it was created as an in-person program. And it was created to be able to be done anywhere from 1 lesson up to many weeks worth of lessons, but all done in person. So when COVID hit, we decided what we needed to do. We were hearing that there was a real need for virtual, and from you all, but from other schools around the state, there was a real need for virtual programming. And we were like, well, we know which one it is that we can use, and we know what we can take in order to be able to create a virtual format. So you will see that with the high school financial planning program, that there's information for instructors, for students, and for parents. And so let's go ahead, Dustin, and show them how it is that we've taken module 1 and convert it. So what you will see here is, are you going to take this from here, or do you want me to talk, Dustin, about this overview?
Yeah, talk about that, and then I'll take them to the website.
Okay, good job. All right. So each module has sub-lessons to go along with it. And you'll see, so module 1, it says available for free. So are modules 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 as well. But module 1, so what we have done is this is the module that we have taken and created into a virtual format. The other ones are still in person. And what we've done is taken the 5 lessons that occur in module 1 and created virtual lessons to go along with them. Some of these lessons, some of these terms you may be familiar with from working within your own classroom, some may be new. But so money habits, SMART goals, decisions, the spending plan, which is a budget, and we case spending plan because people do not like the word budget, and then how to work with cash flow. So these are lessons that can be used by all, by your students. And just as a side note as well, these, even though we say this is geared for high school students, which is what it is you would use it for, I've also used these lessons as well for college students and for adults. That this information is that good and is geared so that it really can appeal to high school students and above. Dustin, back to you.
Sure. The link that you see here, this bit.ly link, will take you to our course. I'll drop it in the chat here in just a moment when Naomi takes over the next slide so that you have that. And then Brianna, if we could follow up, if you could help me get that link out after our presentation with the recording link as well, I would really appreciate that. So I feel like we need a drum roll. This is very exciting for us. We're going to show you this. Maybe. So Naomi mentioned earlier, just as a little bit of a background, this course is hosted on what we call Extension, which is an online portal for cooperative extension systems all across the US. So if you get really, you can't sleep one night and you need something to do, it's kind of fun to go through this campus page and see all the different courses that are available. But we hope you'll start with our course. And here's what that looks like. So we wanted to quickly review the format for our digital lessons. As Naomi mentioned, we had not found any electronic or virtual versions of these lessons once COVID hit. And so that's part of what prompted us to take the in-person lessons, record ourselves doing it, add in some hands-on activities, and present it through this course page. So I'm just going to go through one lesson format. The other 4 lessons are very, very similar. If you have your students go to this webpage, there's an introduction or a welcome piece. There's a little introduction chat, which they can or don't have to do, but it's kind of a fun way to just see who's accessing the course. And then you scroll down to lesson 1. So there's a general overview about what will happen in this course. Y'all are educators, so you know there's got to be some type of survey or evaluation connected to everything. But this survey is not a test. It's a way for us to just help us collect some feedback on, one, who's taking the course and is it being effective? And I think that's an important piece to all this, is that if we're going to present this, we want to know that it's being effective as well. So please encourage your students to go through this survey. It's very short. There is both a pre and a post survey. So that was the pre-survey here. That's the first link that you'll see in the lessons. The next one is a downloadable PDF. It's called the Student Handout / Lesson Pack. Students can download this for free. We've turned it into a fillable PDF. So previously this was for the in-person presentation of these modules. This was something you just printed off and handed out. We've taken it and made it a fillable PDF so that as youth are going through this program, they're not just sitting there watching an episode like they would on Netflix. This is an opportunity for them to engage. And there are times during our recorded lessons where my colleague Mandy and I stop and tell the students to go to this handout and to complete, activity 1.1b. So we tried to add some hands-on interactive components in it. There are some research activities in here as well, where we ask you to go to kellybluebook.com. There's a whole activity revolved around looking for a used car and how do you consult different resources for that. So there are some other opportunities for youth to get engaged. After the handout is our recorded lesson, and these range anywhere from about 35 to 40 minutes. They're all linked to YouTube, so if you have any issues here in the webpage viewing them, youth can go to our YouTube page and watch them. Once they finish that, again, we just ask that they take our post-lesson survey. It's short. We've said on here, this is not a test. Again, it's just an opportunity for us to collect some data to know, are we being effective and who's doing this? So this format is similar across all 5 lessons that are available here. Folks, we wanted to be sure to tell you, this is ready to go. You don't need us to intervene in any way. You don't need to send us your email. You don't have to sign up for a newsletter for this. I'm going to send the link and it's yours. It's free for anyone. And this is a good segue into Naomi's going to talk a little bit about, besides just sending the link to your students, how else might you use these lessons to engage your class?
There we go. Okay. Thanks, Dustin. And by the way, make sure that, I mean, if you've got questions as well, go ahead and put them in the chat and we'll be sure to answer them before we're done. So the great thing about online learning is that you can be as creative with this as you want. So easiest thing to do, send the link and say, you know, go and have fun and let me know if you've got any questions. But you may wish to be more engaged than that. I mean, the advantage of this kind of program is it does facilitate, you know, the flipped classroom concept where you've got a lot of student engagement. And there's really active learning. One of the features that I really like about what it is that the Dustin and our other educators have done when they created this was when they created those forms to be fillable PDFs. So they don't have to print them off. They can do it right online, or they can do them online, fill them out, and then print them out if you want. You could do, when Dustin talked about how it is that the videos are 35 or 40 minutes long, maybe some of you said, oh my gosh, that's way too long. Well, the great thing is you can just break it down. If you want to do a 10-minute lesson, you do a 10-minute lesson. And then it's like, okay, next week we'll do the second part of that lesson. And so it's just, it can work to your, and you can have, so one of the components, one of the lessons was SMART goals. That might be an opportunity for you to bring in a guest speaker to actually talk about it. I mean, that's one of the things that we as extension educators talk to youth and adults about on a frequent basis, is having the specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely, as far as the goals goes. I mean, we go in and we talk to the participants about that information. So you might want to be able to change it up a bit. You might want to bring in a guest speaker. There's also, my understanding is that you all are very involved with Marion. Those of you who are in Marion County are involved with Marion County's Job Ready, the self-management component of your classroom, and this could then go towards that badge. I don't know, Brianna, if this is something, do your instructors throughout the state, do they also work with those badges, or is that just something that's within Marion County?
It's just an Indianapolis thing. However, all of their badges are part of our greater, like, DWD and DOE employability skills. So we have a lot of kids who dually participate also in the governor's work ethic certificate program, which utilizes the employability skills. So there's lots of ways that it kind of can intersect in addition to what's going on in Indy. But I mean, the rest of that is statewide options, and statewide, not necessarily curriculum, but statewide information that they should be utilizing in some way. And lots of schools are doing some kind of homegrown versions of some of those as well. So lots of intersection. So
basically, so probably what we should have done in this lesson then is say, for example, Marion County's Job Ready self-management badge, or others that are similar throughout the state. Basically is what it is that we're looking at. So these are just examples. And the thing is this is to reiterate, the great thing about virtual education is you can use this in any way that you want to. If you want to do a 10-minute session and that's all that you do, you just want to do one of those lessons within module 1, you can do that. If you want to do if you want to do all the lessons, you can do that as well. And this is one of the areas where it is that we or other extension educators can always help too, is if you've got questions on them as well. But one of the big advantages of this program is the fact that it is pretty self-explanatory, and it does walk you from one lesson to the next. So there shouldn't be there shouldn't be many questions or places that people might not be able to move beyond to get to the next lesson.
Well, I want to thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Brianna, thank you for coordinating this and allowing us to take some of y'all's time today. We'll be following up with links to this, and please reach out to Naomi or I if you have ideas or if we can be helpful. This is something that we're really passionate about, and I know you all are too, and I think we should be partnering on it.
Yeah, definitely, Naomi and Dustin, really appreciate your time and sharing information. And yeah, once we get the links to everything, this will be a great push out, and it'll go to a pretty wide audience. So hopefully we'll get some good feedback, and you may hear from a bunch of people that you weren't expecting. But yeah, we'll always looking for additional tools in our toolbox. So thank you.
Our pleasure. One last thing is that if you don't mind, what we'd like to be able to do is follow up with you all. I mean, obviously we're going to be in contact, but in 2 to 3 months or so, and just to get some feedback from you all via Qualtrics survey as to whether or not you implemented it at all. If you did, which parts you used, and just so we can. I mean, yes, we're gonna probably move on and start working on digitizing the second module. I mean, the borrowing module. But we'd like to be able to know what, I mean, you guys are the person we're actually giving this to. And so we'd like to be able to hear, and if nothing happened, we want to hear that too. Mm-hmm. And so, because the only way that we're going to improve this is by getting your all's feedback. So if you don't mind, you'll probably hear from us in 8 to 12 weeks.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all. Thanks so much for joining us today.